The Amarillo Economic Development Corporation will host a joint press conference with Amazon tomorrow morning. The company is looking at the Yellow City as a location for a 1 million square foot warehouse and distribution center.
Nationwide gun sales are up about 17% from last year. Here at Action Guns and Sporting Goods in Chico, they're up about 20%.
50% of registered voters in New York say they do not think embattled Governor Andrew Cuomo should resign.
The fire is now 10% contained. That's a 5% increase. Some very good news. And the nightly briefing is going on as we speak, and we'll be sure to give you the latest information.
Close to 25,000 Xcel Energy customers in the Texas Panhandle were without power earlier today thanks to the blizzard.
Uniforms are all about style and safety. You've got your helmet, you've got your wrist pads, you've got your elbow pads, you've got your cool jersey, you have your skates, and you have your knee pads. Now, hot pants are optional. They look good, but preferred.
It's a phenomenon that happens every 17 years. Yeah, it's a special type of cicada, the brood 10, and it's about to emerge from the soil in the eastern United States by the billions. Merry Christmas, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Judy. David has the night off. Authorities are calling a Christmas morning explosion in downtown Nashville intentional. The FBI now leading the investigation into who is responsible. ABC's Avery Harper has the latest now from New York. The Christmas holiday is one of the top 5 busiest days for the Big Texan Steak Ranch in Amarillo. On average, around 1,800 people eat Christmas lunch or dinner there. This year, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the restaurant operated at 50% capacity. Very few places are open on Christmas, of course. Co-owner Bobby Lee says the tradition of being open on the 25th dates way back to when the restaurant first opened 60 years ago.
Christmas is something that is a responsibility to the Big Texan. We have so many people that going skiing, going to visit their loved ones on the road, and like I said, they expect us to be open. People recognize when they come through this part of the country that the Big Texan is like a lighthouse. It's going to be open, and once again, the responsibility that goes with taking care of those people on the road. They expect us to be open. We have to be open.
The owners of the Big Texan Steak Ranch tallied about half of the customers on Christmas holiday are doing takeout orders to go, and that includes us right here on ABC 7 News. We appreciate it. Thank you, Big Texan, for supplying our Christmas dinner. It was delicious. All right, well, it is the time of year when we tend to overindulge when it comes to food, but here are 3 ways to beat the holiday bloat. Mandy Gaither has that. From Christmas candies to talking light bulbs, an Amarillo man has put up a special Christmas display for all to enjoy every year for over 20 years. Unfortunately, 2020 will be the last time his lights will be lit. ABC 7's Morgan Durden has the story. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house, not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. Well, Santa was stirring, of course, but even though COVID was around this year, the novel virus was no match for the planet's best delivery man. ABC 7's David Furtado reports.
Nationwide gun sales are up about 17% from last year. Here at Action Guns and Sporting Goods in Chico, they're up about 20%. Now, a lot of folks buy guns for hunting and for target shooting, but according to government reports, the majority of firearms sold are being used for self-protection.
Load it.
29-year-old Julie Raymond knows how to handle a gun.
It's the biometric safe.
This single mother of 3 from Oroville grew up with them and the strict rules that surround them.
It was a big deal with my dad to teach us kids about safety. You don't touch them, you don't play with them, they're not toys, they're powerful, they can kill people.
Julie has never owned her own gun. She thought she was safe just having an alarm, but a frightening situation with a man on Facebook this summer changed all that.
It was inappropriate, and it escalated to where he was calling my house, and then I saw him at the store down the street.
That's when she decided to pull the trigger on buying a gun.
From the time that my alarm would go off and the cops getting here, a lot can happen in just a few minutes, and I would want to be able to protect my kids during that time.
Julie is one of the many North State residents taking aim at personal security issues by purchasing a firearm. According to government figures, about 80 million people in the U.S. own guns. Every year, about 100,000 gun owners use their weapon in self-defense against crime, with the vast majority of these uses being only the display of weapons to deter or dissuade. In 14.2% of those cases, the defender believes someone probably would have died if a gun had not been used. But are guns the best way to keep us safe? Experts say that's a loaded question.
You have absolute good gun control yourself, personal gun control, and you're schooled in the operation and firing of the weapon. You've practiced, and you're basically competent with the firearm, then that might be an option for you. Is it always the best option? I can't say that.
Butte County Sheriff Jerry Smith says that gun ownership can backfire if you're not careful.
Having a gun can make you a victim as well.
Some of Smith's top concerns: your gun can be turned against you, your weapon can be stolen, and someone else could be victimized. A child could get a hold of it. And he warns you could be criminally liable should an injury occur with your gun. Dan Azevedo is a former CHP officer and owner of Azevedo Firearm Training in Biggs. For the last 30 years, he's taught gun owners the positive aspects of gun ownership.
You'll be able to protect yourself much easily. It's much more tactically advantaged than using, let's say, a baseball bat or a broom handle. You don't have to be as close to this person.
And the negative.
In Sacramento, a gentleman heard what he thought was an intruder. He woke up in the middle of the night, grabbed his firearm, and shot his girlfriend.
That October incident killed 34-year-old Desiree Miller. It's tragic stories like these that make Dan stress the importance of safety to his students.
But shooting at a range and taking classes isn't enough to keep you safe. Gun experts say before you exercise your Second Amendment right, you better do some serious soul searching.
One thing that would scare me if somebody decided to have a firearm and they knew in their heart, or they knew that they could not take another life to protect themselves or their family. That would only, in my opinion, that's going to possibly give that firearm to the bad person.
I would never pull my gun out unless I fully intended on using it.
While Julie says she would always take a bullet for her family,
There could be consequences. I know that that's got to be my last resort.
she says she'll always remain extra cautious when it comes to shooting one. For Action. Now, if a gun is not for you, Sheriff Smith says you have plenty of other options. You can get a taser gun, you can get pepper spray, an alarm system, and his personal favorite, a loud barking dog. But he says the absolute best way to protect yourself against crime is by simply paying attention and being aware of your surroundings. Reporting live in Chico for Action News, I'm Judy Alley. Back to you.
So these are the RPM.
Chief U.S. Customs Border Protection Officer Hector Navarro has fought on the front lines of the war on drugs at the Arizona-Mexico ports of entry for 15 years. All illegal substances are the bad guys, he says, but in recent years, enemy number one has become a new narcotic.
We initially thought we were seizing cocaine because the quality or the characteristics of the narcotics, they're very similar. Visually, they look very, very similar. But we run into a problem where we're doing the field testing and it wasn't testing for cocaine.
What it did test positive for was the potent synthetic opioid fentanyl.
That was a big game changer. The dogs were not trained to detect fentanyl. There was a big push in the first quarter of 2018. That's when we started training our dogs, and it happened at the local level.
Not only did the training of drug detection canines change, but due to the deadly nature of fentanyl, so did the way CBP officers intercept narcotics.
We used to get samples right away where we made the seizure. Now, we extract all the packages and test them in a controlled environment, so there's no additional exposure.
Pure fentanyl is about 50 to 100 times more potent than morphine and heroin. Ingesting only a couple tiny grains can kill a person. Caution is a priority for CBP officers. Gloves are always worn, and Narcan, a medication used to block the effects of opioids, is always on hand just in case.
Most of us used to carry a probe, which was basically a car antenna cut off with some notches in it, and we would probe packages. In a seat or in a dashboard, wherever we found a narcotics package, we would probe it just to get an idea of what it potentially could be, and we have put the brakes on that.
Supervisory CBP officer Hugo Nunez says about 90% of the fentanyl that enters the U.S. comes through the U.S.-Mexico ports of entry in the form of powder and pills. Most of that is caught at the San Ysidro port of entry in San Diego, with the Arizona ports of entry ranking number 2.
Last year in January, down in the Nogales, Arizona port of entry, the CBP seized the largest amount of fentanyl in the United States. There's about 254 pounds of fentanyl.
Drug Enforcement Administration Acting Special Agent in Charge, Apolonio Ruiz Jr. says the chemicals that are used to make fentanyl usually originate in China, are then mailed to transnational criminal organizations or cartels in Mexico, with the ultimate destination being the United States.
The Mexican TCOs are building pill press machines. They're putting them along the border and also in Sinaloa and other areas. And that's where they're getting the fentanyl powder, and then they're lacing the pills with fentanyl.
While the powder form of fentanyl is still popular with smugglers, officials say they are seeing an increase in the pill form because it's easier to transport.
We have made seizures in stacks of tortillas, inside of pictures, like large painted pictures. Tables have been hollowed out and then filled with narcotics. So if you can imagine it, the attempt to smuggle narcotics using that method has probably been tried.
Detecting fentanyl can be challenging because of the thousands of cars and pedestrians crossing the border each day.
We have to balance between legitimate trade and travel and the interception of narcotics. So our mission is very important. We literally could not inspect 100% of the people traveling into the U.S. It would shut down commerce and it would shut down travel as well as the tourist industry.
High-tech tools like radiation portal monitors and drive-through passenger vehicle imaging systems help identify contraband and expedite inspections and searches.
Any anomaly that we see, we can go right to it or bring the dog right to it.
We have to try to hit them where it hurts the most. And if we're doing it right there, at least it prevents it from coming into the interior.
Powerful new chemical detectors, similar to ones currently used to detect explosives on airplanes and narcotics in prisons, are also being tested for use at the borders.
Any new tool that is effective and we can get our hands on, it just makes our job easier and safer. And it's not only for our safety, but the safety of every American.
But Officer Novato admits machines are not foolproof and dogs can make mistakes. The best tools in the fight against fentanyl, he says, educating the public on the dangers of this ominous opioid and the gut instincts of the men and women who battle on the border every day to keep them from coming into the communities.
Well, the human factor is number one. The officer experience as he learns his job and gets better and better and better, you can never replace the officer.
It has been incredible, and it will end the pandemic.
Speaking at the Vaccine Summit this week, a confident commander-in-chief preparing to execute the last stages of one of his most important missions.
From the instant the coronavirus invaded our shores, we raced into action to develop a safe and effective vaccine at breakneck speed.
In May, President Trump launched Operation Warp Speed, an ambitious and elaborate plan to produce and deliver 300 million doses of safe and effective COVID-19 vaccines, with initial doses available by January 2021, through a whole America approach.
We have leveraged the best of nation in federal government, local, states, industry, and academia to expand the capacity and capability to achieve our mission. It has been powerful.
The focus will be on getting an initial 20 million doses from Pfizer and expected 20 million more next month from Moderna, from the factories to the front lines. Once manufactured, doses will be placed into ancillary kits and transported to McKesson, UPS, and FedEx distribution sites.
We're not reinventing the wheel here. These are companies that have already in the past, particularly in McKesson's case, been involved in distributing millions of vaccines across America. We're just building a bigger wheel, but building on top of the experience that we have.
From the distribution sites, the vaccines are shipped by truck and plane to roughly 50,000 administration sites across the country, all while making sure the vaccines remain at the required sub-zero temperatures through transport, transfer, and storage.
The Pfizer vaccine, as it's being shipped out, is going to be in basically small cartons that are going to have about 1,000 doses per carton. So that 1,000 doses then is going to be something that once you open up the carton and it starts to warm.
After that, it only lasts 5 days. Getting it to the population quickly is critical.
And to ensure not a moment of time is wasted after approval and that enough doses are ready and strategically placed around the country, the government is contracted with several private U.S. manufacturers to help with production, like the $265 million task order secured by the Texas A&M University system.
CVS and Walgreens have been enlisted to provide and administer COVID-19 vaccines to residents of long-term care facilities. Meanwhile, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is working closely with state, local, and tribal health departments to hone their existing plans for distribution. That includes utilizing military manpower and the National State Guard where needed. A high-tech software platform called Tiberius will help track manufacturing, distribution, and administration of vaccines and was developed by the same company credited with helping the U.S. military track down Osama bin Laden.
This is about saving lives. The lives of the great American people. And we will not rest until we are successful and that we have irreversible momentum to returning our nation back to normal.
And that sense of back to normal and a mission accomplished, the president hopes, could start to come as early as this summer. Reporting in Amarillo, I'm Judy Alley.